History of the United States. Subscribe to Wonders and Curiosities. From the first sunrises over the vast forests and rivers of the North American continent to the illuminated urban horizons of the 21st century. The United States has been a country in constant transformation. Before the arrival of European settlers, these lands vibrated with indigenous cultures, full of mighty rivers, vast forests, and ancestral wisdom that connected man with nature. Tribe after tribe, village after village, each settlement carved its history into the land. 1617 marks the arrival of the first English settlers in Jamestown, Virginia. Exhausted from their journey, men sought to survive in an unknown territory. The hardships of colonial life, the battles with disease and famine, made every day a struggle. Meanwhile, in New England, the Pilgrims founded Plymouth in 1621, seeking religious freedom. The 17th and 18th centuries brought growing tensions. Economically prosperous colonies began to feel the pressure of a distant empire, Great Britain. Taxation without representation, such as the Stamp Act and the Tea Act, ignited the spark of rebellion. In Boston, colonists threw barrels of tea into the harbor. The narrative emphasizes that these actions were not mere acts of rebellion, but the seed of a nation yet to be born. In 1776, in Philadelphia, the Continental Congress convened and the Declaration of Independence was signed, its every phrase reflecting liberty, equality, and inalienable rights. The colonies became the United States, but independence was only the beginning of a war that would define their destiny. The War of Independence lasted until 1783. Epic battles at Saratoga, Yorktown, and Valley Forge showcased the tenacious resistance of a young nation and the crucial support of France. Finally, with the Treaty of Paris, liberty was formally recognized, and the nation began to draft its constitution under the leadership of George Washington, its first president and a symbol of unity. With the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the United States sought a balance between federal power and individual liberties. Westward expansion accelerated. Louisiana, Florida, Texas, and finally California. Each conquered territory redefined the map. As settlers advanced toward unknown horizons, this growth brought conflicts with indigenous peoples, whose lands and cultures were displaced, generating tensions that history would remember for generations. The 19th century progresses, and the nation grapples with its internal paradoxes. The industrial North and the agricultural South live in parallel worlds, divided by slavery. William Lloyd Garrison and Harriet Beecher Stowe cry out for justice. Kansas bleeds in 1854, with settlers clashing in battles that foreshadow the greater tragedy, the Civil War. April 1861 marks the beginning of the conflict. Cannons fire at Fort Sumter, Charleston. The nation plunges into a brutal confrontation. Bull Run, Antietam, Gettysburg, and Sherman on his march to the sea show the toll of the conflict. The Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 redefines the war. It is no longer just for the Union, but for the freedom of millions. Finally, in 1865, Lee surrenders to Grant at Appomattox, and Lincoln is assassinated, leaving behind a country exhausted but free. Reconstruction begins with hopes and promises of equality. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments seek to guarantee fundamental rights, while schools for African Americans and new governments emerge in the devastated South. But the violence of groups like the Ku Klux Klan and segregation laws undermine these advances. Simultaneously, industrialization in the North and West transforms the economy. Carnegie, Rockefeller, and other magnates build empires that illuminate skyscrapers and cast a shadow over working-class neighborhoods. The transcontinental railroad and mass immigration connect and redefine society, while the Statue of Liberty stands as a beacon of hope and ambition. The 20th century arrived with global ambitions and international conflicts. The Spanish-American War, World War I, and the Roaring Twenties transformed society, but the Great Depression of 1929 served as a reminder of the fragility of prosperity. Roosevelt and the New Deal rekindled hope, and American industry rebounded. World War II established the country as a global power. Pearl Harbor in 1941 awakened the nation to total war, culminating in victory and nuclear power. The Cold War divided the world into two blocks. Korea, Vietnam, the space race, and espionage defined decades of tension. Meanwhile, the United States faced its own internal conflicts: civil rights, feminist movements, LGBTQ+ rights, and struggles for equality. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and events like the March on Washington inspired significant change. The final years of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st brought technological advancements, economic crises, and new global challenges. The September 11, 2001 attacks transformed perceptions of security. Barack Obama, the first African-American president, symbolized progress and change. The country faced inequality, polarization, and environmental challenges, but maintained its capacity to innovate and rebuild, reflecting the same resilience that marked its birth. From its indigenous landscapes to its contemporary skyscrapers, from slavery to civil rights, from war to global peace, the United States remains a work in progress. Each generation writes its chapter. Each conflict redefines its essence. The story we have told does not end. The nation continues its journey uncertain, passionate, alive, with a future still being written. Long live the United States of America.